Good evening. Welcome to the March 19th, 2014 City Council regular meeting. If you will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stay standing for a moment of silence. Great, thank you. Before I get into the agenda this evening, let you know of two work sessions that were held earlier today. First work session was to discuss the city manager recruitment process, and we will be that'll be an open recruitment process that we have decided to go through. And Amanda, our current interim city manager, will report back to us at the first city council meeting in April about different cost options to doing it internally or going out and doing a recruitment process, either League of Oregon Cities or hiring a firm to do that. So we'll keep you posted on that. And we also had a work session to hear about the region police project, which we will hear more about this evening, and we'll probably pass or we'll decide on a resolution or an ordinance regarding that. So with that, we'll move into communications. From staff, anyone? Nope. Fantastic. First opportunity for citizen input. We've got these wonderful yellow cards. If you are willing to speak to us this evening, please fill those out. And we've got a couple. So we'll start with, is it Paul Shuey? Shuey, if you want to please step up here.
I'd like to thank you guys for letting me take the opportunity to approach the bench. City Council. Gotta excuse me, I'm awfully nervous talking in public, and it's been a pretty trying last 3 months.
Well, take your time. We are also generally nervous talking in public as well. So
This is true.
we fake it real well.
To the Canby City Council Mayor and citizens, a concerned citizen from the community came to me on February 22nd, 2014 and told me a story he heard from a Canby police officer. This officer identified me by name and went on to say how Officer Fetters had been reprimanded for falsifying police reports, omitting evidence, and not following police procedures. In addition, the officer went on to say Police Chief Smith made it clear to Officer Fetters there better not be any sort of retribution against Paul Shuey. Therefore, my simple questions are, what police reports were falsified? What evidence was omitted? What police procedures were not followed? Why should I be concerned about my safety? I want you all to be aware that my 13-year-old son and I were the victims of a violent home invasion incident on December the 15th, 2013. I have been mistreated and heavily resisted upon my trying to keep informed on what actions Police Chief Smith has taken in regards to Officer Tony Fetters, mishandling the incident, not following police procedures, falsifying police reports, and omitting evidence in the matter of the invasion incident at my home. I want to openly add that not only did my ex-wife break into my back door of my home without knocking, she proceeded to beat me in front of my minor son, landing many blows to my head and face. Then, when my son and I ran immediately calling 911 to avoid further conflict, she got into her car and twice tried to hit me with her car, which was recorded on 911 call and witnessed by my son. Information and help has been blocked to me and resisted at almost every turn these past 3 months. I suspect it has been due to the police department's hope that I would tire and give up my efforts to receive fair treatment and forget the mishandling of the incident. I would also like to state that I am not sure if I should be concerned for my personal safety, because I understand Police Chief Smith instructed Officer Fetters that there had better not be any retribution against me, Paul Shuey. And I have an email, January the 7th, to Troe, Lieutenant Troe, explaining my concerns, and I have a response January 10th, 3 days later, and you could read the response. The city attorney requested this in writing before I came, and he's had this now since yesterday, and I would like some answers in writing. Does anybody have any questions? This is about every other weekend and a couple of hours during the week. And I'm tired of this. This has been going on for 5 years. Nobody breaks in my door, beats the shit out of me. These are felonies. I'm done. You got questions? Feel free to ask.
And as the gentleman has requested, I will give you a response in writing. I will. I'll be happy to.
And have a better attitude on the phone next time, sir. You were extremely rude and short. And when somebody has been violated this way, you're wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shuey. And Joe, thank you. Please, as soon as
Absolutely.
we can get a response to that, appreciate it. All right.
One last thing. The last thing I said to her when she walked out that door was, I just want it to end.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Shuey. Thank you, Joe, for
Oh, no problem.
I'm sure we follow up with that. Dr. Perman, update regarding some public parking.
Thank you guys for letting me slip in here real quick. Just an update from last time on the agenda we talked about before. I put together a packet of information. The first packet on top is strictly for knowing where the lot is that we've talked about potentially putting some public parking. Since currently we have no public parking on the entire south side of town for the logging road, and we've discussed that before. The second page just talks about the number of businesses that just signed today that I had an assistant of mine go out and get some signatures of businesses. The third is my response to Greg Ellis and his work of this situation. And the last section is a testimony from Greg Ellis describing the meeting in 2011 when it was denied by the city council to use this area as a public parking area. I just want to go quickly. I'm not going to have you read it tonight. You guys have a busy agenda. I've asked for an agenda meeting for the last 6 months and have not received one. So I decided to give you something to get better prepared so that when we hopefully put on an agenda, that we can go through some specifics and go through some details in terms of Greg Ellis's response the night that it was denied. He talked just a very brief description of the outline, and then that'll be enough for tonight, and we can worry about an agenda time when you're ready to talk about it more. But basically, Greg discussed about 6 different events, and I'll go through those now. I think. Let me do it in my notes. There it is. Number 1 was parking. He said there was parking at Baker Prairie. There is no parking in Baker Prairie because the school district wrote the city a letter and told them absolutely not. There is no public parking at Baker Prairie to access the logging road. He also described all the other access points, except he forgot to describe those access points are walking and bicycling only on the south side of town. Then he attempted to put the responsibility solely on us, that it's a private road, you built it, you take care of it. And I said, that's fine, except we have the CAT bus and police and other city vehicles using it along with the public. And we have a road from a public road of Redwood to a public park. And a road in between is supposedly private. I'll let you decide on that factor. And lastly, we've tried to give the city a very easy process of getting this accomplished. So we have places for the elderly to park. Right now, the last element was safety. public safety is utmost important. Right now, our only access to the logging road is off of Territorial to park. So you're forcing the elderly and moms with kids to walk across the second busiest street in Canby, Territorial, to go south on the logging road. I know it has lights, and I know it's got crosswalk. But we also had 2 women die last month in Vancouver, or last year, on a crosswalk. And several others hit in the metro area, hit while in crosswalks. So I'm just saying, why can't we give the elderly and young moms another option to go south on the logging road and be able to be parked nearby? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Perman.
Mr. Mayor, I do actually
Yeah.
have one question for Dr. Perman.
Yes.
I'm just curious, on the pictures that you included, there were a couple of the cat bus. Are these
Yeah.
recent pictures?
Yes.
Can you tell me what the dates were on these pictures?
I'll have to go look on my camera.
I was just curious because you came in recently with this
Right.
issue,
Yeah.
and the director for CAT was here, and I spoke with her about
Okay.
that. That had been addressed, so I was just wondering if these pictures had taken place since that
I think
conversation?
there's one since then, but I just
Okay.
wanted to, it was last month that a couple of the cat bus pictures were taken. And I can look at the very last date for you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because we thought that
Right.
issue was
And-
resolved.
And
so-
I'm not saying I don't want cat, but my point is that I think people are looking at that site. It's a very popular site to access the logging road on the south side of town. And so my point is, I don't, at this point, am not trying to abolish everything going on. I'm trying to prove a point that there's a need out there. And we continue to have a need. And I know that Brian annexed, or talked about an annexation on the end of town. The problem is, that's only a speculation of an annexation. The last, one of the annexations for residential property, it is now 4 years ago, was annexed, and now they're just starting to build houses. That's not a guarantee. And we've had people parked in private parking lots even before this development that I put in. You talk about Dave Anderson, you talk about some of the other businesses around that sector. They've always dealt with people parking in their private spots to get access to the logging road. And if we need to have a session and bring these people in to talk with you about it, I'm happy to do that. I have no problem, and we can do that. But I'm trying not to bring everybody to the session right now. So that annexation may happen, but it also only includes 6 to 8 parking lots. We have 20 cars a day sometimes in and out of there. I don't think 6 and 8 is adequate.
Right.
And we have 1 lot ready to go and 24 spaces available. We could have it done in a couple of months and be ready to go instead of a few, 3, 4, 5 more years. That's my point. And the issue, like I said, wasn't there because I built my complex. It was there long before I did it. I only hurried it up and made it easier to get closer to the logging road. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have a question, Councilor Parker?
Don, I appreciate this
Sure.
map. I have never seen one like this with the city-owned property.
That's the park I talked about last time that continues to draw kids. I mean, I just talked to an owner, one of the business owners in
Yeah.
town. There were 50 kids down in that little gully yesterday.
So my question to you, Don,
Yes.
is this just an issue for you about selling your property?
It's not
Or
my
would you-
property anymore.
Or would you support
It's the banks.
the city using its property to build a parking lot there?
If you could get access to it,
That's the Anderson property on the other side here?
yeah.
Okay.
And it's down in, and it's got those 5 pillars in there, those big blocks
I
and
know.
all that. You know all
There's
about
some-
that.
There's some issue, you know,
Right.
and I've told you, the problem I have is with property that is already undergrounded with utilities. of
Sure.
Turning that into a parking lot, that seems like a step backwards.
But it's
But
okay.
I'll buy your premise, which
Yeah.
is that we need some parking there.
Sure.
And if we have city-owned property and we can eliminate blight at the same time, that might be worth something staff to look into.
Absolutely, that's a definite thought to think about.
All right.
There's been talk about trying to make it somewhat, we have a lot of people that bring dogs into that place. And I thought, and you talk to the veterinarian that's there renting space, and she says, Don, there are so many people that come in here with their dogs and walk the pathway, that would be an ideal location for a place to run your dogs in a little park, and that's kind of what I thought would be a good designated area to clean up, open up, and have dogs be able to run in there, because that's where most people walk their dogs, is the logging road.
Well, thank you for bringing this up again.
Absolutely.
Especially this map. I did not realize that we owned that property.
Yep,
Thanks.
all right.
Thank you, Dr. Furman. Part of the, Joe, maybe I made a note for maybe you and I to get together and talk about this, and with the park piece there, maybe a conversation
Okay.
with Matilda.
Yeah.
This may be something that Parks may need to, take a look at. Todd, something I don't, thank you.
Parks and Rec, there you go.
No, it's not.
Absolutely.
Jeff's going.
All right.
Jeff says, I hear Parks. Hi, Jeff.
Mr. Smith?
Excuse me. Okay, you these.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. The mayor, city councilors, do you want some biographical information or?
Just your name for the record for us.
Okay, my name is John Smith, and here are some approximate numbers which might help you make further decisions down the road. This is regarding the library. Canby Public Library has at present about 11,000 square feet. The Canby Library serves a population of about 24,000 people. It has a square footage average of persons served of 0.47. The state average is 0.83. The current service population of Canby is about 20,000 people. That is less than the service population of the public library, yet one proposal is to allow more square feet, 26,000 for the new city hall / meeting area, more than 12,000 square feet of the 12,000 square feet given to our library. That is an increase of only about 1,000 square feet, or a 30 by 30 area, or the approximate size of this room. Also, many more people, enter or use the Canby Public Library than enter or use the City Hall. More children use the Canby Public Library than use City Hall. More families, more of your neighbors, more needy, more taxpayers, more students, and so on. Consider raising Canby's livability with a two-story building of 32,000 square feet, a library of 18,000 square feet, and a joint city hall meeting area of 14,000 square feet. That would bring the Canby Library and City Canby up to 7.75 square feet per person served. That's still low, but it's improving. More numbers. The Wolfsville Summer Reading Program signed up 2,200 children. 8% live in Canby. So Canby Public Library and City of Canby lost 176 children to Wolfsville Library. That's approximately the first and second grades of night school. And I don't know if you can imagine 176 kids in this room, but that's all that expansion allows for. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Smith.
One more comment. I encourage you very much to make an appointment and talk with our library director, Pat Duke, about this issue. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. All right. Any other community or citizen input at this time? All right. We'll move on to the mayor's business. I don't have much this evening. First off, a happy belated St. Patrick's Day, and wish everyone a safe Oregon spring break next week. I think that
Ours is this week.
some Canby's out next week. How's
I know.
that?
I'm ready for mine to go back.
The two pieces here, Counselor Parker worked up, or reworked the writing of a ballot referral letter from the council. Please, we are on a very tight deadline. Please take a moment, council, if you have not, and read that and get feedback to Counselor Parker. Had some conversation with our city recorder about steps that we need to take, because I think to submit that, we need, obviously, a payment of sorts. And so Kim recommended a phone call be placed to Secretary of State, find out how we go about doing that.
I'll follow that up.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Because this is something the city staff can't do, that this is something that we can only do as elected officials, and there won't be tax dollars used for this.
Right.
Nor will there be tax dollars used to put this in the voters pamphlet.
Correct. So I appreciate you following up on that to find out.
Got it.
Is that we have to create a PAC, or if that comes from, I'm not sure.
What Kim thought possibly.
Yeah. So we'll go from there. And that's all that I have this evening. We'll start with Councilor Rocha with councilor comments and liaison reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Don't have anything with Parks and Rec tonight. I was unable to make the meeting last night, so I'll get with Ryan or with Matilda and get an update on that for the next meeting. Nothing new to report on the Canby Adult Center, and the Canby Fire Board meeting is next week, so I'll report on that the next time we're here.
All right.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, likewise, I don't have much to report, so I will take a pass this time.
All right. Quickly to Councilor Coleman.
Mr. Mayor, I was unable to attend the library board meeting, but was able to speak with Melissa and get her input, and I appreciate that always. The library board was pleased to see Ken Andrews come to the urban renewal meeting and share his thoughts on the library project. The library is concerned about the overall size of the library, as they'd like to see a 25,000 square foot library. They are excited about the 2nd Avenue location near the Thriftway versus a 3-story on 3rd. And the overall library board, I would say, seems upbeat and optimistic. Secondly, I had a chance to attend the rodeo coronation dinner and auction at the fairgrounds. It was very well attended. Food was good and everyone had a great time. The Traffic Safety Committee, we want to give a big thanks to Amanda, because one of the conditions of approval for the Northwoods in their 2nd phase was to look at some traffic calming. And so she talked with Brian and Matilda, and I had a chance to sit with them, because they're experts on all these kinds of things. And they're going to be coming to our traffic safety meeting and suggesting some solutions. So I really appreciate you taking the time for that. And again, our traffic safety meets on the first Friday of each month, 8:30 to 10. We've had great attendance, many visitors, citizens, councilors, the mayor. I'm excited with our progress, and very excited about the planning department participation. And so I'm just tickled to death. That's all I
Tickled. Nothing. We'll leave it at that. Councilor Dale.
Mr. Mayor, the way the schedule's worked out between the last meeting and this one, I'll keep it very brief and pass it to Councilor Parker.
I just want to say how much I enjoy Councilor Coleman's report on the food at these events.
That's important to know where the good food is.
I need to know where I'm going to attend the next meeting. A couple of small things, nothing significant. I'll go ahead and pass to Ken.
And I pass back to Mr. Mayor.
It's a crazy month.
This was a very light month for us. Usually that's not the case, so, all right. Well, we will move into the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the minutes of the March 5th, 2014 City Council work session and regular meeting, and the appointment of John Marina, Gwendolyn Polgar, and Matthew English to the Municipal Audit and Financial Review Committee for terms to end on December 31st, 2014.
Thank you. Have a second, please?
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair, Council President Dale. Thank you. And seconded by Councilor Ryder to adopt the minutes of the March 5th, 2014 City Council work session and regular meeting, and appointment of John Marina, Gwendolyn Polgar, and Matthew English to the Municipal Audit and Financial Review Committee for terms to end on December 31st, 2014. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none, it passes 6-0. I want to thank John Marina and Gwendolyn Polgar and Matt English for joining and signing up for this committee. It's going to be an important committee for us, and so thank you for your volunteer efforts. And in Gwen's case, it's double duty between that and the Budget Committee, so thank you, Gwen, appreciate that. All right, moving into resolutions and ordinances.
The first item we have is Resolution 1183. This is authorizing an IGA with the City of Portland for the Region project, and Chief Smith is here to present this item.
Great.
Chief.
Chief Smith would like to come up and tell us about Region. So the Region it's the Regional Justice Information Network, and it's updating our police computers and system to better track and share information.
Yes, I like that. It's really a case management system. It's a way to share information across boundaries as it relates to police agencies and their interaction. That way, again, it's a case management system. It'll do a lot of other things that typically you may not see from a case management kind of perspective when you think of reports, but also do wireless report writing that allow us to get away from the paper. And it increases the data sharing because of the network. We have 5 different counties, I believe, that will be involved, to include Clark County and Washington State. And that will be able to actually be able to go on a computer and be able to view a report written as early as within the 24 hours of that being written, and be able to actually have eyes on a report if there's information you're seeking regarding a particular incident that happened in your own jurisdiction. And so it allows us to have that sharing capability that we currently don't have when kind of operating our own silos that we currently do. So it's a greater opportunity for that exchange to take place. I think the other reason for Region that we would want to be going that way is just technology's changing. We're outdated, and we currently have some expectations for technology that we have to meet that we need to be able to do it. And so this will allow us to keep up to speed and be able to get those type of mandates done.
Great. Any additional questions or follow-up? Like, we had a work session earlier this evening on this, and I think we've vetted a lot of this, and I think it's, by the sounds of it, it's long overdue, and if we continue along, it could be much more costly later on down the road.
I think it will. Well, and again, we're already using a system and paying into that system for the information. This is going to be a upgraded system, so to speak, but a greater volume of users will be using it. So it'll be a better system than we currently have, but it is really our bread and butter of how we do our work, and it would give us a much larger capability to be able to do that. So again, we're already doing that, but again, it'll be a bigger system and a better system.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, sir. Take a motion if
All
we're
right,
ready to
Mr.
continue.
Mayor, I move that we adopt Resolution 1183, a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Portland, Oregon for the Region project.
I'll second.
Motion's made by Councilor Hemsley and seconded by Councilor Rocha to approve Resolution 1183, authorizing an IGA with the City of Portland for the Region project. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0.
Okay, the next item we have is Ordinance 1397. This is authorizing a contract with Eagle Elsner, Inc. in the amount of $471,891.50 for North Juniper Street and Northeast 9th Avenue roadway improvements. And Amanda Zeiber will present this.
Great, thank you.
So I'll just say a quick summary about this. Bids were opened for this project on March 6th, and the contract was awarded to Eagle Elsner with a bid of $471,891.50. The project will include sidewalks, curbs, pervious pavement, and paving curb to curb. excuse me, estimated to start around July 1st. Notices were given to all homeowners and landowners along this route to ensure that they were aware of the street improvement projects. And the lowest bid was very close to the original numbers and within the budget.
How many blocks does that cover?
Well, the project will start at Northeast 5th, I don't know the total number of blocks, and Northeast Ivy Street, continue to North Juniper and Northeast 9th Avenue, and then from 9th Avenue to Ivy Street and Knott Street, Ivy to Knott.
Again, if we had 14 bids come in on this, that's a crazy number of bids usually for a project like this. This is great. The top 5 all came in under 500,000, so it was really seemed to be pretty consistent, at least with those companies there. So great. Any other questions or comments on this ordinance?
I've worked with Eagle Elsner before. They're a good company.
Okay. Great. I'll take a motion then.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance number 1397, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and the city administrator to execute a contract with Eagle Elsner Incorporated in the amount of $471,891.50 for North Juniper Street and Northeast 9th Avenue roadway improvements and declaring an emergency.
Great. Thank you, sir. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Ryder. Motion's been made by Councilor Coleman and seconded by Councilor Ryder to approve ordinance number 1397, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to execute a contract with Eagle Elsner Incorporated in the amount of $471,891.50 for North Juniper Street and Northeast 9th Avenue roadway improvements and declaring an emergency. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 6-0. All right. Thank you for that. All right, so next on the agenda, moving into new business, we will continue our conversation on the departmental goal review for finance, library, parks, planning, building, police, and courts. First on the, we'll go with Ms. Haley.
So I don't think anything within my goals should be much of a surprise to anyone. First on my list of goals is the evaluation of the city's financial policies in relation to best practices. This will be the first thing on the agenda for the new Municipal Audit and Financial Oversight Committee. The current financial policies that we have in place were adopted in 2002. And so we'd like to update those based on new guidance and include minimum reserve policies to maintain liquidity and stability, add an investment policy that would allow us to go beyond the 18-month limit of the state, and just update those core financial policies. Second, we have to evaluate fund and accounting structure. I think we closed 3 funds last year, and are looking at additional fund structure changes through the current budget process. This is a continuous goal. Best practice is a minimalistic approach. There are very few situations that require additional funds. So just as we can, streamlining that process, we will be doing that, generally through the budget process. On the goal for future is to consider centralizing purchasing and grant management functions. Currently, these functions are managed by the departments. Centralizing this function would gain efficiencies and provide better control and communication. In the interim, we're considering implementing a purchasing committee with the current designees in each department that would potentially meet quarterly or whatnot, just to try to increase that communication. We've also implemented standard tracking forms for large projects that show both the budget resources and the expenditures and have all key individual of the funding departments sign off, so it's all, everybody's aware of what's going on, just to get everyone on the same page.
Quick question, Haley, on that one. What challenges have there been in terms of the grant piece and?
Just the compliance with federal and state regulations is so much. Having a grant or a audit background, there's 14 standard compliance requirements for all federal grants that are very complicated and get updated every year. And so having that training to make sure that we stay in compliance with one person is much easier than going, if we get a small grant in this department and that department, and making sure each of those departments are up to code or up to standards. This would mitigate those risks of being out of compliance.
So it sounds like this is definitely a collaborative effort with the different departments working together. Okay. Thank you.
Same with the next goal, which would have to be a management-wide team effort of a centralized customer service desk with the concept of one-stop shopping, providing better customer service to our citizens, and gaining efficiencies in both the managerial and financial. There's potential for both managerial and financial efficiencies there. Ideally, this would coincide with some sort of consolidation like the Civic Center, but if that doesn't come to fruition, considering other options would be useful.
I know that's been a conversation topic amongst a number of us on the dais, as well as I know that you and I have had conversation, and kind of the crux of trying to do the Civic Center to be able to have kind of that one-stop shop opportunity. And I agree with you in that if that doesn't come to fruition, we'll have to have conversation pretty quickly on what does that look like as we stay spread out amongst the buildings that we have, so. Okay.
Unless I'm skipping something. No, I think I'm good. The last two, everyone should know very well, are related to financial planning. We are working on a 5-year rolling financial forecast that would be updated annually through the budget process, and a capital improvement plan. The current year, the capital improvement plan will be for reserve funds and rolling stock, and we're working on a more informal plan for the rest of the city to be formalized over the next year or so. So these financial policies will allow us to have more insight into what's sustainable and will give us a bigger picture than the one-year budget.
No. Perfect. Very, very good. Questions for Haley at all?
Good job. Kudos for Haley.
Very good. Thank you, Haley. Appreciate it. Great. We'll move into library. Hello, Melissa. How are you?
Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
My first time officially sitting in this chair.
We're an easy bunch. You're okay.
Well, thank you. I'm pleased to be here to talk to you about the library's goals to be completed over the next 2 years. Our first goal is providing more outreach of library services through partnership with community organizations. In support of the City Council's community goal, we really want to strengthen those ties in the community through outreach. Not only to create partnerships between the library and those organizations, but to bring library services to families and individuals that don't have access to reading materials at home, and just to encourage them to come visit the library. To the best of our ability, we have already been providing outreach to the Canby area schools, also to the summer food sites, but our ability to do that is really limited by our funding. Our staffing situation is such that our staff need to be in the building to work at the front desk, and it's really hard to find time for them to do that without having an on-call staff come in and cover those hours. So one of my goals is to allocate more funds to on-call staffing to give them the ability to go out of the building and do more of those outreach activities. Let's see, our second goal, our next community goal is to apply for programming grants to fund a full range of programs that engage the community. Our operating budget provides low opportunity for programming without the help of grants, so our staff have been applying for grants to supplement the budget in order to provide programming. In order to provide the community with the level of programming that they now expect, since we've been so good at obtaining grants these last few years, we really need to be mindful about tracking down and getting those grants. Obviously, we can't guarantee any number of grants that we'll get, but we can do the work to apply for them and submit a really strong application. More specifically, grants that fund programming that really interests the community. There's many, many grants, as I'm sure you all know, out there in the world, but we really need to hone in on those ones that really are of interest to our local citizens and that will stimulate participation and discourse.
Melissa, can you expand for me? I didn't realize that we, the library staff and whatnot, participated or helped out or did some program outreach, so to speak, with the summer food sites. Can you explain or expand on that?
I will do my best. Of course,
Okay.
I wasn't here last summer when those activities were going on, but we did go, I believe, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe we went to 4 different sites and provided a story time and activities at the summer food sites. And this summer, we're already in contact with those folks to try and, actually, they've approached us and asked if we could be a site to hand out the sack lunches, which is going to be really hard given the very small amount of space we have right now. So we're trying to figure out a creative solution because we are a hub in the community, and
Yeah.
it makes sense for people to come to the library for those kind of services.
Is there an opportunity there maybe to partner with the high school? I know, again, much of the requirements for the high school students is volunteer time for graduating.
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity?
I think so.
For that?
I mean, absolutely. We have quite a few high school students that volunteer at the library to get those hours, and we're always looking for new ways to engage them. You know, some people are really happy with coming in and helping us restock books, but there's a lot of other opportunities, and
Yeah.
we want people to be happy with the volunteer work they're doing for us and
Sure.
really be engaged. So I think so.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Any other questions about that goal before I move on? Okay. No surprise to you, the library's main growth and economic development goal is to work with the city and urban renewal agency to build and, design, build, move forward with the Civic Center Library project. If that proposed project is approved by the voters in May, then that goal will obviously become the forefront. And for me, and a more detailed action plan will come out of that
Okay.
to manage that process. The library also has a Parks and Recreation goal. It's kind of fun to think about how we could be involved with that goal. But as a hub for the community, for information and engagement, we're in a strong position to educate people in the community about what parks are available to them and the different services. So we thought it'd be really fun to develop programs around that. We're thinking one for kids that really engages them and is more designed to excite them, but also one for adults and families to really encourage their use of the parks. So I'm really interested to follow through on that, maybe work with the Parks Department and put some programs together to really highlight the parks in the community and encourage the use of them. We also want to continue working with Jamie Stickle. We work with her every summer to schedule Waite Park for summer reading events. So we're really interested to keep doing that, to really encourage children to be active and be outdoors during their summer vacations, not just to be inside playing video games. All right, and finally, one of our big project goals is transitioning the library website to a new content management system and web hosting service. Currently, we get those services free of charge along with tech support from the Oregon State Library. They're part of a Plinkett program, which is based on Clone. Basically, it's using Clone, they created kind of a little kit for libraries, so it's really easy to just plug in your content and customize it to the look and feel that you want. So we love that program, and we were really quite disappointed to hear that the Oregon State Library has decided to discontinue it. They're doing a big transformation project right now. I included a link to that in the goals there. They'll tell you more about it. But, you know, budgets are tight, and that's one of the areas where they think that they can trim back their budget at the state. So in mid-2015 is when they're estimating that they will no longer provide that service for free, but they will be helping the libraries to transition to a new service, and they're also going to be identifying a few low-cost systems that we could potentially migrate to. So that's going to be a big project for us over the next year or so, working with the state library, coming up with a plan, and transitioning all of our content to the new site.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. All right, Parks Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hello, sir.
Greg Ellis asked me to come here back in January and give you some of my goals. He said it'd be really fun. So I'm going to give it a shot here.
And has it been so far?
Oh, wonderful.
Great.
Great.
That's the answer we wanted to hear.
Don't want you to disappoint.
We're going to continue to provide excellent internal and external customer service while trying to be fiscally responsible. I imagine you have all this in front of you. We have some action items on how we're going to obtain that. We're going to continue to address all of our customers' concerns in a timely manner. We're going to provide a safe, clean, accessible park system for all the citizens of Canby. We want to oversee the development of new parks and green spaces to ensure maintenance-friendly systems are designed and installed. Maintain all the park's assets in the most cost-effective and efficient manner possible. And number 5, continue working with all city departments to provide lateral support, making the best use of city's equipment and personnel. The second goal it's pretty much capital improvement projects. I struggled a little bit with this one because I don't believe some of these are eligible for system development charge money, but when I spoke with Greg about it, he said I should still give you these ideas so that you can weigh in on them. On a smaller one, I believe we need a new flagpole at Maple Street Park. The one we have there is probably not proper flag etiquette for where it is flying now up amongst the trees. So we can consolidate. And also there's a plaque on there from the Legion, and when it was put in, and we'd like to work with them to have them involved in it so we can keep that plaque on the new flagpole. I got an estimate, or basically a bid, what it would take to redo the Maple Street tennis courts. And on that bid there, it came in about $96,500. And that would be a slip stone type of improvement where they would have to totally rebase it. We're kind of at failure on that court right now. So my thoughts were, we could also maybe make that a sport court, and maybe we could do away with one of the basketball courts behind Maple Street Restroom. And I know there's been a want in this community for like a spray park. So I thought we could maybe dual use possibly that tennis court and take one of those basketball courts and make it into a spray park. I believe we have the utilities back there. I think we have all the parking needs that would be there. I think it's in kind of a sunny area that it might be a good spot for a small spray park. We've had a lot of construction at Legacy Park, and I think we're about due for a slurry seal on the parking lot in there. A big one action would be a riverbank restoration at Canby Community Park. South of the boat ramp, we have about 210 feet of erosion going on there now. And I guess my fear is that someday it's going to work its way to the road. I think we've possibly lost about 5 to 8 feet of the bank already. It's kind of creeping back in. And I don't know if that would be like an Army National Guard type project or a, excuse me,
Army
Corps of Engineers project, something of that nature. Because I believe we're going to probably have to be dealing with the EPA and DEQ once we start messing right around that water line. So, almost done here. There's also some curbing needs at Community Park around the road. We have a lot of options there, so I have no price on something like of that nature. The other one that might be important project, capital improvement project, would be the revamping of Baker Prairie Cemetery. We have a Pioneer Cemetery in town here, and I was approached by a Charlotte Lehan, and she has a company called Graves Matters, and we have an extremely high amount of marble headstones in there, and we have quite a bit of disrepair going on in that cemetery at this point. We could do a full restoration for about $13,600. I posed this to the Park and Rec Board last night, and they thought it might even be nice to have some sort of a fencing in that cemetery also. So when you're looking in there, you're not looking into other backyards or, you know, some way to neaten up and preserve that part of Canby's history that we have going on there. And another goal, you know, we want to continue to support and provide assistance with all the other groups that we deal with in town, and we will continue to do that. And I'd like to ask if you have any other questions for me.
This is fun.
It was wonderful.
Okay, that was a question I had.
Jeff, the parklands, do we include, we don't include the school district lands, their ball fields and whatnot in our park lands total?
I believe we provide them as a recreational
But it's
access.
Okay, but it's not a, like, when we look at our total land that we have or want to designate as parklands, that's, the schools aren't really, their parks aren't considered that, part of that? No.
I don't think, for the calculation of like SDCs and
Yes.
such, no.
No.
So the SDC charges you talked about earlier, what do those go to?
For new parks.
New parks and whatnot, okay. We talk about, so that is just that land procurement, or is that all of the pieces that would go to it? Like, I look at like Legacy Park, so that included all the playground equipment and all that. Does that, SDCs would cover a new park like that?
I believe so, but I'm going to have to ask Haley for a little help here from the latest information I received. I believe we can use SDCs up to like 57%, and then we have to have an in-kind, whether it be general fund or some other source, of about 43%.
She's smiling, so I think she's thinking you're right.
She's smiling.
Yeah, so if you look at our latest SDC rate study, it basically says that the parkland that we have currently is below the standards we would need for our current capacity. And so they have a ratio of what, when you add a park, how much of that is for the increased capacity and how much of that is meeting the deficiency of the current capacity. And SDC's improvement fees, which is the only improvement fee we collect because of this deficiency, have to go for only capacity increasing. So that means over the life of the improvements that we've planned, a percentage, and it's very close to 57%, should be funded by SDCs, and the rest needs an alternate funding source. So, but it is over time that you fund that. And so you may have a big donation of land, that is 100, so all this new parkland, 100%. Other funding source, you may have a smaller park that's 100% funded by SDCs, but as long as over time you meet that percentage. That may have been more than you wanted.
No, that's exactly what I wanted to know. Yes, sir.
I don't know if you've done this yet. If not, I will, since I'm liaison with the Historic Review Board. They've mainly been focusing on buildings, but I bet they'd love to hear about the cemetery project as well. I'll connect the two projects there, because I believe that history is also an element to economic development, and that it's one of the things that can provide additional tourism draw. So let's connect them, my board with your board, and we'll see what happens there.
All we need is money.
Yeah.
I'd like to commend Jeff. I've been to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board meetings, and they have some really great ideas, and Jeff's always really good about saying, okay, that's great, but how do we maintain this? How do we keep our guys safe when they're mowing the lawns and everything? So I want to commend you for bringing that stuff up, and cost. There's a couple times when
citizen streams, that's what we do.
Yeah, there's been times when there's been cost issues, and Jeff and I both looked at each other and went, no, that doesn't seem right. So I thank you for that.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think we've seen over the last couple of years kind of a shift, hopefully continuing too, with the passage of the civic building, just the incorporation of, everybody that will touch a project that we put in, having some input and say into how that project starts to shape in the long term. I know that you and I have had conversation about some of the greenery that we have put in over the last couple of years, and how do we maintain that and take care of it the long term. So I think it's an important piece when we have those projects come along, that we get everybody at the table on what is that impact. So I appreciate you bringing this and the goals and whatnot, and thank you for the hard work you do on the Parks team. So thank you.
Thank you
very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
Appreciate it. Come back again.
It's fun.
We should find reasons to bring them back in. Mr. Brown.
We're going to continue the fun. I think I'll start just with where Parks have left off, in the idea of how important the planning staff feels that we support Haley's project on the capital 5-year capital plan, and having our Parks staff set forth those long-term kind of dollar improvements that the community needs to be aware of is really important, because they need to be prioritized. And so, thinking along those lines, the one kind of drainage is the primary area of service need, but it's also a park that planning wanted to point out, and is one of the goals that we've identified, is it makes sense to start thinking about the tertiary regional water treatment facility that's going to be needed out in the Willamette Wayside area. And the reason I brought that up is that we feel like it's going to be at least a 3-year process to get that going, to find funding sources, to bring together the educational and regional partners that are going to have to make that project work as it's envisioned, as not only primarily a stormwater facility, but an educational facility, a park, amenity of wetlands preservation, a way to use that land that's out there in a manner that can achieve all of those objectives is a big project. And it's also a big dollar figure that we've got to find the source of money. And there's a good source of volunteers and grants that are a possibility, and grants take 2 or 3 or 4 years to secure to make those things happen. So we're just mentioning it as something that we ought to do, and the primary reason is our other top planning goal that we've identified is working on the North Redwood Master Plan. And as you know, that's already underway. It's taking a whole lot longer than we anticipated to just get the scope of work completed. That project is managed by ODOT and their planners, and Matilda's pulling her hair out with version 10 of the scope of work. But it's about ready to head to Salem and get approved, and we'll be kicking that off. But that's going to go way into next year to complete that project. And that project is there to assist us in planning for the unincorporated area. It's the largest unincorporated of land in our UGB that's on the north side of the highway. And if we're successful in getting that planned, it will help in annexations. It will make them easier and quicker and facilitate that, and it will also help us assure that we have better quality development that happens after annexation occurs. And if all of that works in a very succinct and fairly rapid process, in 3 years, we could see development starting in this area, and we need a regional detention facility to handle all the stormwater, because that part of town needs a channel, a stream, or a piping system, because we can't use underground injection wells in that particular area of town. So it all fits together in a long-term piece, and so just being aware of that, that development's going to need a way to keep the water from running directly into the river and killing our salmon. The other project that's kind of related to the North Redwood Master Plan that we've identified as goal is to try to revise and complete the adoption of the Northeast Canby Master Plan. And I'll just say it, right here, it's the project that has staff most concerned about our success. It involves primarily working to get the new Otter Road, alternative industrial road, from the industrial part to the highway, and placing that road through potential multi-property owners that don't necessarily want that road going through their property. And so you can imagine the setup that that's presenting to us, because we've done quite a bit of visiting and looked at